Welcome back, Cardiacs. This week we'll explore the bounce back win against the Sun Belt's Coastal Carolina, reflect on the first 4 games of the season and how it relates to the next 4 games of the season, and we'll take a look at some recruiting news for football and basketball. Let's get it going. Well, that was a well-needed and timely win this past Saturday. The bitter Big Ten taste has plagued the state of Virginia these past 2 weeks, and this past Saturday's win was a great way to come back into a bye week. Not taking off this week are my 2 co-hosts, Sean and Mills. But before we jump into all that, I want to recap Saturday's game. UVA's offense was led by an uncharacteristic rushing attack for 384 total yards. Xavier Brown had the majority of those yards at 171 yards on 9 carries. Kobe Pace added 57 yards and a rushing touchdown. And it's worth noting Grady Brosterhouse added 2 touchdowns on the ground as well. AC had a quiet passing game. He was 13 of 20 for 131 yards and 2 passing touchdowns to Malachi Fields, who led the team with 4 receptions for 65 yards. The defense was led by Clary, who had an interception, and Cam Butler, who recorded the only sack of the game. Coastal's offense had 302 passing yards and 2 receiving touchdowns in addition to 82 rushing yards and a rushing touchdown. Final score, UVA 43, Coastal 24. We had quite differing opinions on how this past week's would play out. Sean, do you have anything to add to that?
I mean, I just want to take us down memory lane from last week. And Mills, I want to get your take on this, but let's hear this one first.
I think Coastal, this is a trap game. I think that we're coming off a bad loss. Some of the players are going to feel bad about it. Definitely want UVA to win this one, but I am on the terms of, I think it might be a 31-27 Coastal Carolina game.
Mills, the final score was 43-24 Virginia. Do you have any thoughts on that? Do you wish you could take your words back?
No, but how about those JMU Dukes, baby? I will say that.
How did the Sun Belt fare this week?
JMU was the only one that fared well against the Power 5.
So back to UVA football. So what did you think about the game? I mean, you and I had been talking. We were really, a little nervous about this game. I was a little nervous. I thought we would win, but we thought Sean was being underestimated. And then he certainly, I think Sean hit it on the head.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. It was a decent game, but we'll see. Yeah, I guess, it was a win, so yeah.
Yeah, they definitely took care of business this week. Sean, what did you think about the game?
Oh, I've been waiting for this one. This was we kind of called it a must-win. We have to go down there and protect the ACC's reputation. When we go into a Sun only holds 20,000 fans, and, we handled our business. I think from the opening kick, this was a total domination by Virginia, and we showed we're a Power 5 or Power 4 school, and they're in the Sun Belt. The only one that actually looked good, I mean, we talked, JMU looked good, but this Coastal team, as I told y'all, played nobody. Their competition was trash prior to this week. We outplayed them from the very jump. I mean, I don't think you could have written a better start to the game with forcing a fumble in the opening kickoff and getting the ball on your own 8-yard line to score. So, again, the offense looked good. We ran all over them. We passed when we needed to. We got ahead of the chains early and often. However, the only thing that plagued us in this game was penalties. We had too many penalties, a lot of false start penalties. And again, we played at Wake that held 30,000 fans. There's no excuse to have false starts when you're playing against 20,000 fans on the beach. So something to work on there. I think we did a lot better with getting ahead of the chains and giving us manageable third downs. We definitely improved on that. I think we were 9 for 18 on the third down conversion. So ultimately, I think we looked a lot better. Calandria had a clean game. That was one of the keys. He's got to be clean. And then I like the Grady direct snap. I mean, it got everybody fooled. ESPN, they even called it as a Calandria touchdown. So it was something different, and I liked it. We established the run early and often, which allowed Calandria to be comfortable. All 4 of our backs had a good game all the way down to Noah Vaughn. So, and the line gave us plenty of time. and we won the turnover battle with 2 of them. So the only thing I didn't like, we had too many chunk plays on defense. I mean, if you look at it, the Coastal team had a 58-yard reception, a 31-yard reception, 65-yard reception, and a 41-yard reception. So 4 of their plays were over 30 yards. I think that's just unexcusable, and I don't know if we took plays off or we were reading run. One of them came on a 4th and 2 pass that ended up a touchdown. So there's some things there. It looked like the guys took some plays off. And then, yeah, so it was a great game. It was good to see him. Very hard to watch on the TV with that ESPN broadcast that we'll talk about. But overall, it was a good game. Got some areas we can improve, penalties, and then we just take this bye week to get healthy.
Yeah, Mills, I think you might agree with me. This particular game, kind of curious. I don't even really know if it really meant that much to us. I mean, it was important that we came out and win and we dominated, but at the same time, this team played a weak Coastal that might be worse than Richmond, to be honest with you, that faced us after shaking off beginning of the season jitters. I'm not quite certain that this game really should inspire hope that the season's going to be vastly different. What do you think about that particular take?
Yeah, I don't have much hope in this team. I mean, they got to win, so I mean, can't say much, but it's 3-1. So I mean, we'll see after the bye what they do against Boston College, and I mean, yeah, Coastal, they were high this year on Coastal, but I think they lost a lot of production. But yeah, I don't have much to say.
That's a first. But, like I was saying, this game, like I said, it was real important for us to come back after the Maryland game. AC really, Sean, would you say he's out of the doghouse with his performance? I mean, he took care of the ball. He did what he was supposed to do. They stuck to the run game, but I'm not quite certain that he's turned a new leaf or anything like that. So it's hard to say with him, but I don't really know how I feel. I think that was definitely maybe a good confidence booster. He seemed like he put it in the end zone at will when they did decide to throw the ball.
Yeah, overall, he looked better. He had more time. The line was able to produce time. And then when he got flushed, he was able to make plays. I mean, he broke off that run early I think it was in the second quarter when he took off with the ball. I mean, he looked a lot better with his legs, and we did more designed quarterback runs with him. And I like seeing that because that's another threat he has. He's got his arm, and then he's got his legs, so we might as well take advantage of it. So I will say the one touchdown he threw to Fields in the second half, that one, he had so much more end zone to his right that if he would have led Fields a little bit better, it would have been defender would have had no chance on the ball. It was a little closer than what it could have been. But overall, you look at the numbers, he played fine. And I think a clean game is what we wanted to see. But that's what happens. When you get the running game going, it takes pressure off of him to have to be Superman. And he played with a lead after 3 plays into the game. And I think that's all comes into the mindset. He doesn't have to be a hero. He got down, he took his slides. Even when he could have fought for 4 or 5 more yards, he took the slide. He's protecting himself. I like it. And then we didn't even run him in the red zone. We used Brosterhouse. So I like that decision, and I think ultimately it will help boost his confidence, and a clean turnover sheet is definitely helpful for him moving forward.
Yeah, I definitely enjoyed that big chunk play where he scrambled for a lot of yards. You could really see his speed as he broke away from the defender. It was pretty exciting to see really how fast he is. I guess you could just see a difference in talent between their defensive line and, a Power 4 school. All that being said, I'm curious to know, it seems that we, how am I trying to put it? It seemed that we were fairly dominant and he took care of the ball and we established the run game. Xavier Brown really stood out in this game, to me, as maybe the lead back.
I do think Xavier Brown is showing more of that running back 1 position, and I think he's going to end up getting that spot, I think. However, I do like the fact that we have a change of pace back, pun intended, but we had the ability to run 2 guys and get them going. And then even then, I mean, if you look at it, we had 7 guys run the ball. So I really like what we saw. We got to see a little bit of Noah Vaughn, and all the main guys had over 8 carries, and even Noah Vaughn had 32 yards. I liked what we saw of the rushing game. I don't think it's anything to get overly excited about. I think we're going to see it be a situation down the road where we're going to have to rely on the running game more, and hopefully this does bring some confidence. But again, it was coastal. They were not good. We outperformed them in every facet of the game.
Yeah, one thing that I did like seeing about some of the coaching decisions was that they stuck with the run because it was working. We talked a lot about, second half, third quarter adjustments, and we didn't have to do that, so we didn't really get to see if they would have to make those decisions. But you did like seeing that they stuck to the run game. That I texted, I think I texted you, Sean, that we were kind of we got off to a, other than the fumble and the touchdown following, we did kind of get off to a little bit of a slow start in the offensive. It seemed like we were flat. I was starting to get worried a little bit. And I texted you. I said I wanted to see the next 3 plays, run plays, and they took my advice. So they stuck to it, and you saw the success there. It is nice to have 2 different backs that you can have 2 different types of running styles and designs. So it'll be interesting to see how they move forward. I'm not certain that we're going to be run-centric from here on out, but you never know.
I mean, I'm looking at the drive charts, and the possessions look good, and we did more of what we wanted. We wanted sustaining drives. So the touchdown, obviously, you can't do much there. 3 plays, 13 yards in a minute. But then we had a 7.5-minute drive. We had a 4.5-minute drive. We had a couple of short ones, but I think we had short field. It was really tough because we started typically around in between their 40 to 30 every time, or our 40 and 30 every time, and then we were getting in their territory. We didn't have to have long drives. But we had a couple 10, 14-play drives, which I really like seeing. And again, the biggest thing that hurt us was we were getting behind the sticks a little bit, but we just got to eliminate those penalties. I mean, we had 6. I think there was 3 in the second quarter alone that really hurt us. So we just got to clean that up a little bit.
Yeah, so I think moving forward, I think they should, build off of this win coming into the bye. I think they really just have to hit the reset button. That's kind of what I'm seeing as we're coming into these next 4 games. They really have to hit the reset button here. I think they exceeded expectations for the first 4 games, in all honesty. But it does set them up to have a little bit better of a second half of the season. But the next 4 games is the big focus. Hit and reset. They got some big, tough competition coming in. I think they have a lot of tape they can review from the first 4 games on where they need to improve. I mean, obviously, injuries are on the offensive line are still a factor. So it's nice that we have this bye week coming in to these next 4 games.
Yeah, I think this bye week really sets up in our favor. It appears, or it gives us the opportunity to get healthy. I did some looking in how we performed in these first 4 games, and we actually fared really well. Obviously, the record reflects that. However, some of the highlights, we're outscoring opponents, we're out rushing opponents. Passing, we're just a few yards behind, and total offense, we're ahead of our opponents. So, I mean, I think we're trending in the right direction, and statistically, we look like we're becoming a better team under Tony Elliott. And then the only drawbacks I'm seeing is third down conversion. Still, we're 31% from there, and that's got to be a huge improvement in these next 4 because we're going to talk about it. We are coming into a really tough part of our schedule. And then the other part is we got to score in the second half of games. We're looking at currently on this part of the year, we're behind 13 points in the second half, and that's even with the Coastal game. So some other real quick highlights that I like about it is our red zone scoring. We're scoring about every 83% of the time we're in the red zone. The only thing I want to see is currently we're only 50% touchdowns. I want to see that number get higher. We're kicking a lot of field goals in the red zone. But on the flip side, we're holding opponents to under 50% touchdown percentage when they're in the red zone. So that's part of that bend don't break defense that we're seeing. That we may give up some plays, we may allow them to get into the red zone, but we're not allowing them to get that touchdown. So I think those are some of the key things that we're seeing this year. So there are some things that do look good, and we're looking at receiving. We have 15 total guys making catches, 10 of them with multiple catches and 5 with double-digit catches. Obviously, that shows we have a strong receiving core. We have a strong group of guys that can go out and catch the ball. I think when you look at it, we all kind of talk that the one guy we want to see get a little bit more burn is Chris Tyree, and we're real excited about him, and I think we really want to see some more out of him. We tried again against Coastal. I don't see us throwing the ball downfield to him too much, more screen plays and stuff behind the line of scrimmage. I really want to see him get involved more when we start rolling in the second half because we're going to need him. And scoring's pretty even. I mean, I think overall what you want to see from these stats is that it's not just 2 or 3 guys carrying the team. It's a very much a team effort in all this, and we are winning the categories we need to win in.
Yeah, I'll definitely add to that. It did appear in the Coastal game that they did spread the ball around. We have some surprise weapons that have kind of emerged and have been really consistent, and Tyler Neville as well. That's another weapon that we're getting really good production out of. Real smart player. I wouldn't mind seeing Tyree, run the running back position a little bit. I mean, we obviously have Kobe and Xavier, but that's what he was recruited as. That's what he played in high school. That's what he played in his freshman season at Notre Dame, and he had some good success there. I don't know. I know what you're saying, Sean. They're trying to get the ball in his hands, to make it happen. It just hasn't happened yet. So I think this bye week, and be interesting to see, if they can reevaluate how they plan to use him. I don't know. It's interesting. I mean, to be fair, you only have these 4 games to draw stats from for these numbers you're giving us. I mean, you do kind of have to look at it, though, that there's some outliers here. You have Richmond and now this Coastal game. So you really face lesser competition, in my opinion. So, I mean, I don't know. You can look at those stats and be excited, but is it giving you a false illusion of our efficiency? I'm not sure. So you could really, I guess you'd have to look at just really Wake and Maryland. So, but again, those are good things. They're doing what they're supposed to be doing against the teams that they're playing, and you're given the schedule that you're given. I understand that. I just wouldn't, hone in on that. But so these next 4 games are going to be a real test, and I think will provide real metrics for you to kind of evaluate where this team stands in the ACC or just as a Power 4 school altogether. Where do you think the team's headspace is at right now, as they enter into this bye week? I think entering the season, they seemed really bought in. The Maryland loss, while it was a bummer, I don't necessarily know. I don't really feel like it had the same impact as last year. That was a pretty ugly loss last year to Maryland. So I have a feeling that team morale is pretty solid right now, and that's key as we head into these next 4 games.
Yeah, when you're thinking about the headspace and where these guys are feeling, you have to look at what we got in the schedule we're given, and we're currently sitting 3-1. It's one of our best starts in a very long time, best start in the Tony Elliott era. So, yeah, you look around and guys got to be excited. You got to take that as a momentum builder, but you got to understand that, again, you played Richmond, Coastal Carolina. So you played some not great opponents, but, hey, you've built your confidence. You've set the building blocks, and we just got to keep continuing to move forward and attack these next 4 games we got. And I think part of what we want to do here today is we just kind of want to touch on the next 4 games and kind of what we need to see moving forward and how this team is going to succeed with that.
I do want to just briefly go over who we have the next 4 games. So we have a redesigned Boston College team that Bill O'Brien seems to have really made an impact. So that'll be interesting how Tony Elliott, focuses on them. We have Louisville, Louisville's been really strong these past couple of years. We played them close last year. We have Clemson and North Carolina, who probably had the most embarrassing ACC loss in recent history this past Saturday against JMU. So, yeah. So, what do you think about, real quick, what do you think about Boston College, Sean?
Boston College is a very well-coached team. I think Bill O'Brien is a very, very good coach. The fact that when he got the job and he went into Boston College and no one transferred speaks volumes for the guy. I watched the Florida State game. No one gave them a chance. I still think we're waiting on 3-2-1 Knoll to surface after this one. But I like the fact that, I mean, it's going to be a tougher game. I think early in the year we talked that Boston College is probably a winnable game. I think we all picked us to beat Boston College. It's not going to be a cakewalk anymore. They got wins over Florida State and Duquesne and Michigan State, and their only losses to Missouri, who's a top 25 team, and by 6. They got a really good quarterback in Thomas Castellanos. And, again, they're well coached by Bill O'Brien. So we'll talk more next week and break down what we're seeing. But it's going to be a tougher game. So, and then, the good news is we get them at home. The next 3 out of the 4 games are going to be at home. So that's a huge advantage for us. So following Boston College, we have Louisville coming in. They're ranked 15th in the country currently, with wins against Georgia Tech, Jacksonville State, and Austin Peay. And then they have Notre Dame this weekend, which will be a good game for us to watch because we got Notre Dame coming up on the back half of the schedule. So, I mean, I think Louisville is going to be a very, very tough game, and I think we all see how this one could play out. Ultimately, it's going to be tough sledding these next 4.
Yeah, so I'm looking at Boston College. I think that's really a game where Tony Elliott can prove us wrong or prove Mills and I wrong. I think that it's going to be a battle of wits in that game. Bill O'Brien is pretty sharp. He's really changed the Boston College team dynamic. He's really gotten Castellanos going over there. So I think that's going to boil down to how well Tony can figure out what Bill O'Brien's doing over there to get them to that level. Louisville, I mean, we have them at home. That's good. We played them tight last year, but the tape is out for us on them. They have they have plenty of tape on AC, and I think it's going to be a real tough game. I think every game these 4 are winnable, but it only gets tougher as we head to Clemson, a homecoming game for Tony Elliott. Love to see him upset his former coach there, but Clemson's really catching fire, and I think that Georgia loss really fired them up. And then there's North Carolina. So North Carolina definitely showed that they have some holes that we can exploit. And, hopefully...
Thank you, JMU, for hanging 70 on their head.
Yeah. So hopefully that sting of that loss isn't, still stinging them all the way to, 5 weeks later.
We got to see if Mac Brown's even going to be the coach when they come to town. I mean... There's talks that he's already lost the locker room.
You got to see if Mac Brown's even going to wake up tomorrow. I mean, the guy's a ticking time bomb. But those are the next 4 games that we have coming up, and we'll talk more as we get closer to those games about what we see there. We'll be keeping an eye on Boston College and Louisville and Clemson, North Carolina. Yeah, so it's gonna be interesting. I mean, Sean, what do you want to change? How you think these next 4 are gonna go? Compared to what you did at the beginning of the year, or what?
Well, I want to touch on some things first that I think we need to talk about on how we're going to play these next 4. And I think what we've built on from these first 4 games. So, ultimately, I think we know with Tony Elliott, we want to get a running game going. So, I think if we need to definitely get the running game going better. That will help get our passing game really taking off. Again, we've shown that AC has some flashes of what he can do when he's got a lead and he's not coming from behind. So I think the more we can do to help him, the better. He took what was given to him, so I think that's a huge thing. And then we just got to be able to protect him. I think we're getting some guys back. Bowley's coming back. We lost a defensive tackle on Saturday. He's going to be out for the year. So I think I want to see us utilize Calandry a little bit more. I want to see him be controlling that offense like we did in Richmond, where we're going to use his legs as a threat. So, and then again, we've talked about this. We got to get off the block better. We need to get more yardages on first and down plays to allow the third downs to be manageable. Those are some of the categories we got to protect. And then on defense, we got to get more pressure up front. I mean, we only got 7 sacks on the year, and bulk of them came against Wake Forest. But I think we need to step up a little bit. Our corners need to pick up the pace a little bit. The safeties, Clary and Sanker, have been really strong back there, but we have Shine and Jackson back there in the cornerbacks, and they've gotten a little beat up, given up a few plays. So I think if you lock those things down, our bend don't break all defense, we have the ability to play in any of these 4 games coming up, and I think it's ultimately that's what's going to have to get this team going right. We need the foresight to get up for these games again. The next 2 games are going to be home against Boston College and Louisville. I think the fans need to show out again. The students need to show out again. And I think we're turning in the right direction. And I think anything can happen in these next 4.
Mills, you have anything to add about these next 4 games?
No. I mean, I think y'all said it pretty good. Y'all had a good combo. I think that with these 4, it's gonna be a tale of heads or tails. Like what team shows up. I do think they lose to Boston College, and Louisville. I think if I had to pick out of the 4, I think it's gonna be UNC that we could beat. UNC exposed them, so
If
no,
we,
Like who exposed UNC? Was that JMU?
yeah, go
Do I got?
Dukes.
Oh, that's what I was. Good plug there.
if we win 2 here, I mean, what are your thoughts about the season?
Sucks because then we have to keep Elliott. So, I mean, that's kind of the point. I don't know. You got to keep him, I guess.
I mean, the guy gives you 5, and then possibly a 6th at the end of the year. I mean, you can't knock the guy for not progressing the team forward in his first actual full year of being our head coach. So, I mean, I understand your perspective about it, but I mean, it will be interesting to see, after that all plays out. But I was just kind of curious. I mean, that would be really surprising if they win 2 in the next block of games. But there's definitely some wins there to be had, depending, like you said, what teams actually show up to play.
Yeah,
Yeah.
if we put together a complete game where, and yeah, I keep harping on the same thing. It's the same key to victory. We don't need to beat ourselves. But if we put together the team that we've shown in certain games, I think we definitely have the chance to win 2 of these games. 2 is going to be great. I mean, I'm looking at this, and I keep looking at Louisville and Clemson. Clemson's a completely different team from when they played Georgia, or Georgia's just that good. When you look and see how Clemson's beat everybody else, I mean, they beat NC State pretty handily last weekend. So trying to watch these guys and really see what we're going up against, I mean, it will be a really good view of how this team is playing. Again, we're a third of the way through the season. So if we can get through these next 4 with 2 wins, I think that'll be huge. And then that takes the pressure off because then you go into the last 4 and you only need 1 win to be bowl eligible. And I think there's some winnable games in that back 4. So,
Hey, Bills, I did want to say, we were pretty hard on AC last week. And it looks like they hurt us. They went out and got 2 quarterbacks for 25 and 26. So, yeah, I guess we just got to keep being that little guy on their shoulder, I suppose.
Yeah, not bad recruits. We'll see what they can turn in. But with this day and age, they're not fully committed until they sign that paperwork. So somebody might drop a bag at their front door and they're gone.
I mean, that's the nice thing about 3 stars is what bag are they actually going to get? But it's
a
more
biggie,
so,
a biggie
it's
bag from
more
Wendy's,
so,
maybe.
I mean, we already gave them the 3-star burger, but you give them, maybe the guy that we have coming in 26. I swore up and down he was 6'5", but he's 6'4". So he had some decent offers. He had App State, Kentucky, ECU. Looks like Duke and NC State were also interested in him. So that's pretty excited to get Eli. And then we have, who's the other guy, Sean, that we got for
We got
next year?
Bjorn Jurgensen.
Yeah, he
And
comes
then-
next year.
And he's a little bit bigger too. And, let's see, he was. I think we're adding guys there. Well, obviously we'll lose Tony, big loss. By the way, Tony Muskett looked pretty classy out there taking the victory kneel. By the way,
He reminds me of Kurt Burnett when he played for the Packers. Rodgers felt bad for him, never got an NFL snap, and had to go out there and take a knee. That's what I thought of him as.
I thought that knee was like the ultimate ownership of that game. We could have easily put up a 50 spot right there, in my opinion. But
Probably should have.
we did the classy thing. And see, that's what you say that, then Sean would have more stats to read to us. But,
Right.
we, we, that,
We
that,
like points, man. We like the points. Take the points.
we would have,
I mean,
we would have got stuffed on the goal line and kicked it for 3. But
speaking
yeah.
of kicking, Will look struggled.
I don't think he liked the turf. Watching the game on TV, the turf hurt my eyes. I don't think he looked comfortable. I don't think he had a great footing.
That's not. See, but kicking, you can't use the turf. That's fresh.
Hey,
Speaking of the viewing, the experience that I had, it was like they just threw all washouts over to run this game. I mean, they couldn't get the bottom scoreboard correct. What down we're on, what half. I mean, that was awful. The announcer sound quality. I mean, we're in a little man cave, and it sounds better than what they had. That was embarrassing. I would have rather listened to that on 1140. And just imagined it. I probably could have got a better picture than what I was given for that game.
Yeah, I stopped watching after halftime.
Well, what were you watching?
The JMU UNC game.
Because it was still going on. I mean, they started at noon, and it was only into halftime by the time we kicked off. So
Yeah,
that was a slow burn there. But I did the worst thing I could have possibly done, and I rewatched the game again today. And just from the start, they talked for like 4 minutes without any audio. Then, like you said, we had no idea where the down and distance was at all. There had no first down markers on the screen. This was just like, let me set up the Barnyard app for intramural sports, and you just watch it and you get what you get. I was joking. I would have rather just played the game on mute and gone live and commentated. I could have done a better job than that. And then in the second half, they had the producer who was coming through the TV. They were talking about when they're going to break. You can't even put ESPN on that. It was absolutely trash. And we shouldn't go back to another Sun Belt Conference team who can't even put together a good production, even if it is JMU, because that production was absolute garbage, and it just shows that there's a difference between Power 4 and the Sun Belt.
Let's just put us on the Ocho.
Well, it would have been better off. They would have been more entertaining, and even the announcers couldn't even. I mean, I guess we got everybody. When Brosterhouse ran that touchdown in, the announcers called him Calandria.
I just struggled with his last name, so cut him a break.
Well, no, they called him Calandria. They said Calandria ran it in. And then if you followed UVA Twitter, they even talked that Calandria ran it in. So that just shows you how good the play was, that we were able to sneak in Brosterhouse and no one knew.
Speaking of Twitter, also known as X, formerly known as Twitter, if you're not following us at Cardiac Who's, give us a search. We have a interesting group of followers. I think you might or may not like, but again, follow us on X at Cardiac Who's. You can also find us on YouTube. What's the channel name, Sean?
Yep, Cardiac Who's on YouTube, Apple Podcast, and Iheart Radio. We have we're on all of those platforms, so wherever you find us at. Spotify's our biggest home right now. That's like our home base. So
we have a little bit of basketball news. I think that's pretty exciting. Mills, we picked up a 4-star.
Yeah, Chance Mallory from Stab. So it's right in his home backyard out of Charlottesville. Pretty big pickup. When he first started recruiting, a lot of folks thought he was going to Tennessee. But it seems like Bennett did his job and stayed home and watched and recruited him pretty well. So it was good to flip him from Tennessee, and he's a point guard. He's shifty. He's definitely a top. He was one of the top 100 ESPN recruits. So getting one of those guys is key. So, and then we'll see what the other Virginia kid does. He should be announcing in the next 2 weeks, but sounds like he's probably gonna go to one of the blue bloods from what they're saying. So
Well, it feels good to finally get one. I know we've had a couple of tough breaks on some recruits that Tony went after, and they end up going somewhere else. So that definitely feels good. And yeah, I can't wait till we start talking about basketball. October's around the corner, so keep an eye out or keep an ear out, whatever. We'll get there with the eyes, but yeah, keep an ear out for when we start talking about that, and we'll dive more into that. Thanks, Mills.
Well, we do have a little bit of news. Mills, any highlights from the schedule released today?
yeah, we got a Wednesday night 11 p.m. game against California.
Gotta love these new
Uh,
ACC teams all
yeah,
across coast to coast.
the
It
schedule
seems
wasn't bad. We got 9 over after 8 o'clock games. We got 4 9 p.m. games and 1 11. So you'll be getting your coffee. Sleep. You can be staying up late.
It
Um,
feels like these West Coast teams. It's like they're the step kids that haven't really been like accepted into the family yet. That's the kind of the vibe that I don't. It just doesn't seem. It still feels weird seeing them play against us, and it's an ACC, a ACC conference game. I don't even know if they're getting the respect. But I was rooting for them against Florida State just because I don't know why. I guess everybody wants Florida State to fail right now.
yeah, I mean, so we open up with Campbell from basketball news. We open up with Campbell. The big, like, first big game that our tester is going to be Villanova playing in Baltimore. Then you turn around and play the Bahama tournament with starting off with Tennessee. So, and then play the winner of the Baylor St. John's. But other than that, the SEC ACC challenge, we play Florida this year, so we played them last year or the year before, so we should know them pretty well. And then we open ACC play at SMU on December 7th, so that should be fun.
I can't wait till we get back and we can, or when we shift gears a little bit more towards basketball and we're breaking down what we think and who we got. I mean, we got the blue and orange scrimmage coming up on October 5th at 6 p.m. I think that'll be a great opportunity to see what our team is going to look like and what this new Tony Bennett offense is going to be. So it's going to be exciting. We'll have a lot to talk about when it comes to basketball. So I want to bring us back real quick. So earlier in the year, we all put in our predictions for the year, and I want to kind of go over who is where. So currently, Ben had us projected to go 4-0 in the first. And
Who's positive now?
yeah, Ben was a positive guy. So currently, Ben is 3-1, and me and Mills, even though Mills didn't project us to win the Coastal game when it came to the week before, early in the season he had us. So me and Mills are both sitting at 4 for 4 going into it. However, when we get to this next stretch, just a little refresher, Ben has us Boston College loss, Louisville loss, at Clemson loss, North Carolina win. I got us going with a win, loss, loss, win, and then Mills win, loss, loss, win. So me and Mills are very close. We'll have to see. Maybe we'll get a hot take from somebody else coming into a future podcast. But
I like to change my Boston College to a loss.
we're not changing anything, Mills. These are our predictions from the beginning of the year, and you get what you get.
You're an emotional roller coaster.
You can
buddy.
change next week, and then when we beat Boston College, I'll start off another podcast with a soundbite of you telling us how we're going to lose to somebody. So it'll be a
That's
good.
fine.
It'll be a good
Maybe
time.
if I keep saying that, they'll win.
We got one more thing to say.
We do got one more big thing. So this last week, or over the last weekend, Ben James won the Valero Texas Collegiate Tournament. So he overcame a 5-shot and this is golf for all these people who don't know what the Valero Texas Collegiate is and who Ben James is. He's a top 10 golfer in the Collegiate Series. So he overcame a 5-shot deficit to force a playoff, and then on the first playoff hole, he birdied to win. So with that, he gets an exemption to the Valero Open next year. And then overall, the team finished top 3. So a very strong start to the fall season for this Who's golf team. It's one of my favorite things to watch. Mills has his lacrosse and soccer and swim and dive and whatnot. But golf is my thing, and I love watching them in NCAAs every spring. So great start for the Who's golf, and good job, Coach.
Well, thanks again for joining us on the Cardiac Who's. Mills, Sean, always a pleasure. Go Who's.
Go Who's.
Goose.